The Black Cat. The tale I am about to recount is a strange and unsettling one. I do not expect, nor do I seek, your belief. Indeed, I would be foolish to expect it, given that even my own senses seem to deny the reality of what I experienced. Yet, I assure you, I am not mad, nor am I merely dreaming. However, as I face the certainty of my own demise tomorrow, I feel compelled to unburden my soul. My intention is simple: to present a series of seemingly mundane domestic events. However, the consequences of these events have been terrifying, agonizing, and utterly destructive. I will not attempt to explain them, to weave a narrative that imposes meaning. The events themselves speak to the profound horror I have witnessed, a horror that may seem fantastical to others, a mere figment of my overactive imagination. But perhaps, in time, some mind, more rational, more composed, and less prone to the excesses of emotion than my own, will find a logical explanation for what I have experienced, attributing the seemingly impossible to a chain of natural events. From my earliest years, I was known for my gentle nature, my empathy for others, and a deep well of compassion. My tenderness of heart, a trait both endearing and ridiculed, made me the object of amusement amongst my peers. I was particularly drawn to animals, and my parents indulged this fondness by providing me with a menagerie of pets. My days were filled with caring for them, nurturing them, and reveling in their affection. This inherent compassion grew with me, becoming a fundamental part of who I was, a source of genuine pleasure. To those who have known the unwavering loyalty and intelligence of a faithful dog, I need not elaborate on the depth of this connection. There is an inherent purity in the selfless love of an animal that transcends the often shallow and fleeting nature of human relationships. I married early and was fortunate to find a woman who mirrored my own disposition. Recognizing my fondness for animals, she eagerly sought out the most agreeable creatures to share our home. Our menagerie grew to include birds, goldfish, a magnificent dog, rabbits, a small monkey, and a cat. The cat, a creature of striking beauty and intelligence, was entirely black. My wife, prone to a touch of superstition, often spoke of the old belief that black cats were witches in disguise. Though she never truly believed in such notions, it's a detail worth noting, as it has taken on a macabre significance in light of what transpired. Pluto, as we named him, became my beloved companion. I took sole responsibility for feeding him, and he followed me like a shadow, his presence a constant source of comfort. It was an effort to keep him from accompanying me, even on my trips through the town. Our friendship endured for several years, but my life took a tragic turn. Intemperance, that insidious demon, crept into my life, gradually eroding my character and transforming my temperament. I became moody, quick to anger, and increasingly callous towards the feelings of those around me. I spoke cruelly to my wife, even resorting to physical violence. My pets suffered the brunt of this change in me. I neglected them, mistreating them with a casual cruelty that I would have previously abhorred. Pluto, however, remained a source of solace. I never dared to mistreat him, his presence a reminder of the good I once embodied. But the grip of my addiction tightened. Pluto, now aging and prone to a touch of grumpiness, started to experience the effects of my volatile mood. One night, returning home from one of my haunts, intoxicated and consumed by the fumes of alcohol, I imagined the cat was avoiding me. In a fit of rage, I seized him. In his terror, he bit my hand, a slight wound that ignited the fury within me. I lost control. My soul seemed to vanish, replaced by a monstrous rage fueled by the poison of gin. I pulled a penknife from my pocket, opened it, and with a chilling sense of purpose, I grasped the cat by the throat. Then, with a deliberate cruelty that chills me to the bone even now, I tore out one of his eyes. The memory of that act haunts me. I blush. I burn. I shudder at the mere thought of it. Morning brought a flicker of reason, a sliver of remorse, but it was weak, a feeble echo of the horror I had committed. I quickly plunged back into my addiction, drowning my guilt in a sea of alcohol, attempting to erase the memory. Pluto, surprisingly, recovered. The lost eye was a gruesome reminder of my cruelty, but he appeared to be free from pain. He still moved about the house, but he would flee in terror at my approach. I felt a pang of guilt, a sense of grief for the creature who had loved me so. But this fleeting sentiment was quickly replaced by irritation. And then, as if an insidious force had taken hold, a spirit of perverseness consumed me. This spirit, one that philosophers struggle to explain, is a primal urge within us, a perverse inclination to defy reason and act against our better judgment. It compels us to do wrong, simply for the sake of doing wrong. It is the insidious whisper that tells us to violate the rules, to act against the dictates of our conscience. This spirit, I believe, is the source of my downfall. It was this unfathomable desire to self-destruct, to inflict violence upon myself and those I loved, that drove me to continue, and ultimately to culminate the evil I had started. One morning, in a cold, premeditated act of cruelty, I placed a noose around Pluto's neck and hanged him from a tree. Tears streamed down my face, and remorse gnawed at my heart. I knew he had loved me, had never done anything to deserve this, but I had committed this terrible act. I knew it was a sin, a heinous sin, that would endanger my soul beyond the reach of divine forgiveness. That night, I was awakened by the cry of fire. The curtains of my bed were ablaze, the flames quickly consuming the entire house. I barely escaped with my wife and a servant, the fire leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. Our home, our possessions, our lives, destroyed. I was left with nothing but despair. I am above the weakness of attempting to establish a causal link between the fire and the atrocity I had committed. But I am simply presenting a chain of events, leaving no detail unexplored. The day after the fire, I visited the ruins. The walls had all collapsed, except for one small section in the middle of the house, the wall where my bed had stood. The plaster, recently applied, had somehow survived the blaze. A crowd had gathered, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. They pointed to a spot on the wall, and there, as if etched in the plaster, was a giant cat, its outline eerily precise, a rope around its neck. The sight of this apparition filled me with terror and awe, but my mind began to unravel the mystery. I remembered that Pluto had been hung in the garden. It was likely that someone had cut him down during the chaos of the fire and thrown him through a window into my room. The collapsing walls had pressed his body against the damp plaster, and the heat of the fire, combined with the chemicals in his body, had created the image I saw before me. I could explain it away, but the image haunted me. For months, the phantom of that cat lingered in my mind, a constant reminder of my cruelty. A glimmer of remorse, a feeling that felt like remorse but wasn't quite, returned. I even found myself regretting the loss of the creature and began searching for another black cat, one similar to Pluto, to fill the void. One night, I sat in a bar, its smoky atmosphere heavy with the fumes of alcohol, my thoughts muddled. A black cat, large and beautiful, caught my eye. It was sitting on top of a barrel, as if it had been placed there for me. The cat resembled Pluto, except for a large, undefined patch of white on its chest. I petted him, and he purred, rubbing against my hand, his affection evident. This was the very creature I had been seeking. I offered to buy him from the landlord, but he claimed to have never seen the creature before. The cat seemed to sense my need, his affection a strange echo of Pluto's. I took him home with me. He quickly made himself at home, becoming a favorite with my wife. However, I soon felt a growing dislike for him, a sentiment that ran counter to my initial hope. I found myself repulsed by his affection, annoyed by his presence. This disgust slowly morphed into a bitter hatred. I tried to avoid the creature, ashamed and haunted by my previous act of cruelty. I did not strike him, but I came to loathe him with a ferocity that bordered on madness, fleeing his presence as if it were a plague. My hatred intensified when I discovered that he, like Pluto, was missing an eye. My wife, her heart full of compassion, only grew more attached to him. Despite my aversion, the cat's affection for me only intensified. He followed my every move, crouching under my chair, leaping onto my lap, or getting between my feet, nearly tripping me. I longed to destroy him, to make him vanish, but a fear, a dread unlike any I had known, held me back. This was not the fear of physical harm, but a more profound and unnerving terror. My wife had drawn my attention to the mark of white hair on the cat, the only outward difference between him and Pluto. I had dismissed it as a trivial detail, but gradually it became more defined. It was not just a patch of white fur, but a horrifying symbol, an image of the gallows. I was beyond wretched. A creature I had carelessly destroyed had, in a twisted, perverse way, returned to haunt me, to inflict unbearable torment. I could find no peace, neither day nor night. I could not escape his gaze, his presence, his constant reminders of my cruelty. The creature became an embodiment of my fears, a manifestation of the darkness within me. My temper, always volatile, exploded with rage. My wife, patiently enduring my torment, became the primary victim of my anger. One day, my wife and I were running an errand in the cellar of our house. The cat, as always, followed. He tripped me, and I snapped. I grabbed an axe, ready to kill him, but my wife's hand reached out to stop me. Her interference ignited a demonic rage within me. I pulled my arm away, and with a monstrous force, I buried the axe in her brain. She fell to the ground, lifeless. With a chilling sense of purpose, I set about to hide the body. I knew I couldn't move her during the day or night without being seen. I considered dismembering her and burning the pieces. I thought of digging a grave in the cellar. I even imagined throwing her into the well. Finally, I settled on a more sinister plan. I would wall her up in the cellar, as the monks of the Middle Ages had done to their victims. Our cellar was perfect for this horrific act. The walls were loose and had been freshly plastered. There was even a false fireplace, now bricked up, that provided a perfect hiding spot. I was certain I could easily remove the bricks, place the body, and wall it up again. With a crowbar, I removed the bricks. Carefully, I placed her body against the wall, propped it up, and replaced the bricks. With great care, I mixed mortar, sand, and hair to match the existing plaster and carefully covered over the new brickwork. I surveyed my work with a chilling satisfaction. The wall was pristine. I swept up the debris and felt a sense of twisted accomplishment. The next step was to deal with the creature that had brought so much misery into my life. I was determined to kill it. But the cat had vanished, seemingly sensing my fury. His absence brought a strange sense of relief. a brief respite from the torment he had inflicted. I slept soundly that night, a feeling I had not known in what seemed like an eternity. The next 2 days passed, and the creature did not return. I breathed freely again, convinced he had fled forever. My guilt over the terrible act I had committed seemed to fade, replaced by a twisted sense of accomplishment. Then, on the 4th day, a group of police officers arrived, their visit unexpected, their purpose clear: to investigate my house. I felt no fear. My secret was safely concealed. I accompanied them as they searched, but I was confident they would find nothing. Finally, they came to the cellar. I stood my ground, my heart beating a steady rhythm, a calm facade hiding the turmoil within. The officers were satisfied, their investigation complete. I was elated. I longed to celebrate my freedom, to taunt them with my seeming innocence. "Gentlemen," I said, as the officers began to ascend the stairs, "I am delighted to have allayed your suspicions. I wish you all health and, perhaps, a bit more courtesy. By the way, gentlemen, this is a very well-constructed house. These walls—" My words, a desperate attempt to convince myself and them of my innocence, were laced with nervous bravado. "These walls are solidly built." And in a fit of misplaced confidence, I slammed my cane against the very wall behind which my wife's body was concealed. But my actions unleashed a horror I could never have imagined. As the sound of my cane echoed through the silence, I was met with a horrifying response. From within the wall came a muffled cry, a broken sob, rising to a deafening scream, a primal wail of anguish and triumph. The officers froze, their faces etched with terror and bewilderment. They immediately started dismantling the wall. My wife's body, decayed and soaked in blood, stood revealed. And perched atop her head, its eyes blazing with a terrifying intensity, sat the cat. The creature I had walled up with the body of my wife. The very creature I had sought to destroy. My actions, my sins, my madness had come back to haunt me, a gruesome manifestation of the darkness I had embraced. I was trapped in a living nightmare, surrounded by the ghosts of my past, a prisoner of my own unspeakable cruelty. The end. If you like the story, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Was there anything that surprised you? Who's your favorite character in the story? I can't wait to hear your thoughts.